Welcome back to this episode of the Iowa Beef Collective. I am your host, Patrick Wall, and with me today, we're interviewing a series of guests. Most of them, speakers or panelists here at the Genetic Symposium. We're at the Hansen Center here on campus, and I'm talking with Chip Kemp, who works for a company called 701X. He's been within the beef industry for quite a while now, but been with 701X how long now?
Oh, 6-7 months.
6-7 months. It's a fairly new company. So we're going to spend a lot of time on this episode talking about a product, but we're probably actually going to talk about a topic more than anything, and that's labor.
Amen.
And we're going to approach it from an avenue that I don't think most people had probably ever thought of. And we're in a market, I believe, where I think it's more affordable maybe than it's ever been. So let's dive into what 701X is, what it isn't. It's not just one thing. There's multiple ways you can grab a hold of it. But tell the audience who you are,
Sure.
What you do for 701X, and what the product is that we're talking about.
Sure. I'm just a lucky dude who's got to meet a lot of really talented folks through the years and been put in positions of kind of fun and tip of the spear type of things. And 701X, when that team approached me back early in the year, and I had the opportunity to visit the team, I openly have stated, I stated it there, and I've stated it many times since, there is not a technical team like this anywhere in the modern beef business. And so I'll start real quickly, Patrick, with how it was built.
Okay. And
so it was built in inverse order of maybe the way you and I would build such a thing. You and I, knowing cows, would see, okay, here's a pain point I want addressed, and I would set about trying to work it from a cattle producer's angle, from a cowboy's angle. And there'd be a lot of good from that, but there would be a lot of lack of awareness of the current technical capability that exists on planet Earth, some of those limitations and where we could go. And so I would have some blind spots. The flip side here is the company's founder made his bones in significant manufacturing automation, loads of engineering prowess on a whole host of fronts, and in a company that was very successful in that space. And when he chose to step into this arena, he brought that approach, that human medicine, pharma quality engineering and software need, and said, oh, maybe I can do it with cows. So he kind of came at it from a 180 from you and I. And so what does 701X do then? That was a little less than 5 years ago. 701X does a number of things, but they're all really oriented to one piece. And that is, how do we take data and noise from a whole bunch of different sectors of the beef business and boil it down into user-friendly interfaces that provide solutions and answers, as opposed to just a bunch of data points that we don't know what to do with. And we can talk more specifically about those different tangents in a moment.
Yeah, and you mentioned user-friendly. So we visited about this product at BIF, and one of the things that I will never forget you said is, there's phone apps, and there's social media, and there's all these things that are at our fingertips in our phone. And one of your software engineers, when, one of the challenges we think we have in this industry is we've got, grandma and grandpa still own a flip phone, or they just got their smartphone, they don't know how to run it, the technology scares them, yada, yada. One of your software engineers says, if I had to train them how to run the app, then I screwed up.
Yep.
That hit like a ton of bricks, because the training portion, if we have to read a tutorial, we're out.
Done.
So the user-friendly side of what 701X is doing is unprecedented. Talk about, the product is essentially a tag, but it's what the tag does that makes it unique. So describe what 701X, the tag, actually is.
So if you'll forgive me for a moment, because I want to get to the tag, but I would actually say our core skill set is the one that's not sexy to folks, and you actually just kind of touched on it, and that is the software it takes to do these things. Nobody likes software, right? It's not that exciting. And so the core skill set is we have this remarkably robust herd management system that is just unparalleled to anything I've ever seen in the business. And as you know, I've worked with a variety of different breed associations and software solutions. And not only is it user-friendly, it's nimble, it's adjustable, it's changeable, It integrates directly into registries for those who need genetic eval, and integrates directly onto eval solutions and into genomic tools. And so it's a software solution that begs to be used to the extent that, the fourth largest commercial outfit in the country uses 701X tools. They use exclusively the software. That is a rare side. Now, the beauty of the software, because the way it's designed, it integrates with other pieces. And so to the tags, to the wearables that you mentioned, we have a variety of tags that can communicate and then passively populate data into that software. And that to me is the magic, because sitting down late at night and punching in data into a laptop or into a personal computer, it's just not exciting to folks in the cattle business, right? Or a fairly small subset. But imagine, and this is the way the solution works today, is that you pull your phone out of your pocket, you get out of your UTV or jump off of your horse. There's a calf on the ground. You pull open your phone, you type in the cow's number, or possibly since you've already got it in, it'll just pull up on a long list and you select that one. You scan the QR code on the calf's new tag. If you're taking a TSU, you scan the QR code on that TSU. It automatically populates. Now you've tied in 2 minutes. You've done the shots you needed at that point in time. You've put the tags in. You've tied it to its dam. And if you're somebody who needs genomic work, whether you're commercial or seed stock, genomics are now tied specifically to that ID in perpetuity, which is a stark difference from the way we assign genomic tools, which come much later. So, and then, oh, by the way, it's cold out. And so your fingers are cold. You accidentally type the birth weight in as 820 instead of 82 pounds. It stops you right there and says, that's out of bounds. We fixed that birth weight right there, as opposed to 6 months later when we find we have a hole.
Right.
And in the background, then, if one chooses to take full approach of the system, that's integrating into contemporary groups, directly into registry without you having to have visit those. So, but the tag that folks most often think about is what we call our XT Pro tag. And that is a solar panel tag that has an accelerometer, a gyroscope, heart rate sensor, GPS location. And so the primary point of interest and pain point for most producers is my cow mounting or not? Is he breeding cows or not? And so you throw this tag in his ear. I know where he's at. If he's sick at all, I get a pop-up to my phone, get a health alert, and I can look every day how much he's mounting. But more importantly, it's the negative of that. If all of a sudden his behaviors look starkly different than they've been looking, I get an alert to my phone, a no mounting or a low activity alert, and I can go put my eyes on that situation and go, okay, where are we at?
Maybe he's got a broken tool, or he injured or blew a hock, or maybe just don't feel good, and he's not chasing cows. I summarize what the tag system does pretty simply by asking a producer, what does it cost you to know if your cows are in, when your cows are in heat, when they're going to calve, and where they're at when they're calving? What would it cost you every day to do that? And for someone like me who has an off-the-farm job, I'm doing it right now, and I've always got my phone in my pocket, I got to do it when I get home. So do most of producers that have less than 200 cows. It's not a full-time gig. Describe the tag and how it does that for the user that's never heard of it before. Sure.
So as you heard me say, and I agreed with where you opened this podcast at, is that everything's an HR play.
Yep.
Everything's an HR play. And so it's interesting. People oftentimes assume that there's a certain type of beef producer who lines up with these tools. In fact, it's a wide swath, right? Yep. Because in much the same way you describe how many of us have these off the farm roles. And so we're a flashlight cowboy quite frequently trying to get these things done.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, if you're somebody who's out there running 800 cows, it's just as difficult for you to see every animal that day, even though you're, quote unquote, on the ranch or on the farm. Maybe you're cropping part-time, or maybe you just have so many cows. And so to your point, how much diesel and time and tires would it take to check all those cattle that day? Right. And so the way the tag physically works, so much like, and I think a way for many people to resonate with it, it'd be much like a smartwatch. Some of the capabilities, actually almost all the capabilities that you would see in a smartwatch kind of lined up in this tag. It's a solar-powered tool that sits in the ear. It's got a 2-pin design on purpose because that 2-pin design, we know this tag only weighs 37 grams, but we know a single pin, we've done enough homework and enough study, causes a little too much wear. 2 pins is more humane to the creature, much less wear on the ear, and much less noise in the data, right? Because the tag is now stable. And the reality is we're using a lot of behavioral clues and tag movements to do these things. And so this tag communicates Bluetooth, cell, or satellite anywhere in North America. And so it goes through that progression. If you're close up, there are ways through your phone or other devices you can use Bluetooth. If you have good cell signal in your area, it downloads quite frequently. If you are in a fairly remote area, it can bounce back and forth from any of the 3 of these, but in a very remote area, it's going to rely mostly on satellite. We can't move quite as much data on satellite, but even given that, our satellite provider of this unique, what we call a non-terrestrial network of satellite, tells us we are the 2nd largest user globally of this satellite system.
Wow.
And it's sharing cow data. And so to your point, it gives you the ability to know we're very used now to telehealth in the human world.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
This is telehealth. It allows us to know what's going on in our business, even when we can't put eyeballs on it.
And I mentioned how it could be useful for the producer with an off-the-farm job. You mentioned the guy with 800 cows. If you got 800 cows in Iowa, you got 7 pastures.
Yep.
You run the wheels off a pickup truck, and they're not giving pickup trucks away anymore either. If you haven't tried to buy one recently, you don't have to check those cows every day.
Nope. Your
phone will tell you, are they healthy? Are they on the right side of the fence? Are they doing what they're supposed to? When we're struggling to find, labor, and I will argue that this tag is more reliable than any high school kid you could hire on the weekend, because you don't really know if he went and checked them. You just know when you get back that things look the way they're supposed to. It is fascinating stuff. I'm glad to see it hit the market, and I think, it's like any other technology. We've only probably scratched the surface as to what it can do. Mm-hmm. Any other information that if a producer says, all right, I've listened to this podcast, I'm sold. Like, how do I sign up? What's it going to cost me? Mm-hmm. Where do I get started to get these tags in my cows?
Yep. Pretty simple. Go to 701x.com. There's a fair amount of information there that can kind of walk you through the process if you want to trial it briefly and just trial the software, if you want to get 1 or 2 tags. And that's what I encourage folks is the beauty is this solution doesn't require any base stations or towers, right?
Yep.
You buy 1 tag, it does. You put it in a cow tomorrow, it works. You buy 1,000 tags, you put them in cows tomorrow, and they work. You don't have to set up a semi-load of infrastructure around your place to make that happen. So it's scalable.
And it also doesn't matter how hilly your pasture is.
Nope.
You don't have to go into a central downloading location. They don't need to go to water.
Nope.
They can be where they're at. They don't have to visit a location for you to get any information, which there are other technologies that are that way. They were developed largely for the dairy industry because all your dairy cows are in one spot. Yep. So this is unique in that they don't have to visit anywhere for you to get a prompt on your phone.
Yeah, and Patrick, on that front, and it's also thought about the scalability of it. So this tag, you asked directly, how much do they cost? These are not cheap devices. So to put one of these Pro tags on, the tag itself costs $100. But much like your phone, there's a service plan.
Sure.
And that service plan is $75 a year. With time, we'll probably bring both of those prices, maybe a little bit more friendly, but this is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, because the team realized you got to find a way to get some other data points, we also have a companion tag, typically thought of used on calves. It's a $20, it's a Bluetooth empowered EID. Mm-hmm. So EID technology has done great things for the beef business. It also has distinct limitations and essentially has gone the distance it can go. Now imagine if you had the benefit and the friendliness of what EIDs can do with in-pasture metrics or quick, you hop on the buggy, you grab an adult beverage, you and the wife and the kids go look at the calves late at night, and you're riding around in your phone and you just hit roll call and it shows you every calf that's in that pasture that you've tagged. And oh, by the way, most importantly, it shows you the one that didn't show up. and it will literally help you find it and locate that calf in that pasture. And so that little device or the Pro Tag, the little device only communicates, the light tag only communicates via Bluetooth. So it needs some way to connect. It integrates with the big tag. Anytime it's within Bluetooth range of the Pro Tag, it becomes its mobile satellite station. So a very thoughtful approach. But one other thing I think is sometimes overlooked in our model, there are folks who say the Pro Tags, that $200 bill nearly, let's be cowboys. We're going to round $175 in the first year between the cost of the $100 Pro Tag and the $75 service. We're going to round in our mind and say, it's $200. It is. Okay. Let's just call it what it is. However, for a lot of folks, a nice place to start, maybe you had a little drought in your area the last year or two, and you had to pick up 30 acres 45 minutes away to throw a group of heifers. Well, what you can do is put this $20 light tag in each of those heifers and get what we call an X Watson water monitor. You don't have to monitor water with it, but you can. You throw that on their water. It tells you if the water's frozen or not and all those kind of things. But every time that female checks into that X Watson, that station, you get the information, right? So I can know remotely that a group of heifers, they've drank today, they're healthy, and they're there. And I can do it pretty cost effectively. So there are different solutions for different folks. So if this is something that all intrigues you, and more importantly, is Patrick, as you've heard me say, maybe gives an opportunity to attract your kids or grandkids to get excited about their future and coming back to the farm, get online, take a quick look, and get on the phone with one of our reps, and let's talk about what use case might work for you to get started. And it doesn't have to be a big spend on day one.
And just for clarification, the expensive tag, when I cull that cow, can I get the tag back?
Absolutely. So that tag is reusable. So the smaller, less expensive tag that we call the XT Lite, it's a one-time use tag, much like you would think of as any ID. But this XT Pro tag, you can cut it out and use it in a variety of different ways. So we have different use cases. Ideally, it's a year-round herd management tool. Goes in an animal and you use it year-round in all the ways. You know if it's out of fence. You know if you're getting too much fly irritation in your cow herd. And what are we going to do about that? You get calving alerts, estrus alerts, digital preg checks, those kind of things. But we have other folks who say, I put it on the bulls when they go out. I cut it out and put it in the office till the next time they go out. And I can reassign it to a different bull. Or we have folks who use it on large groups of heifers. They put it in early. They use it as estrus detection and breeding relative to an AI program or natural selection. Once they feel things are good, they cut them out and put them in a different set and use them for another purpose. So they're nimble and they allow you to do different things.
Yep. But you have a spring herd and a fall herd. You can use one tag twice.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Good stuff. I knew when we got you on the program that I was pretty juiced up about having you on to talk about the 701's tag, 1X tag, and it is fascinating stuff. It's cutting edge, and I can't wait to see where it goes. So appreciate you joining us here on the podcast, and thank you folks for joining in on this episode of the Iowa Beef Collective. Continue to like and subscribe. Find us on the Iowa Beef Center pages. We'll be on the social channels here coming to you weekly with some educational opportunities. Appreciate you joining in.
This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or accommodation inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/legal.